How's it going, everyone? Welcome back. Merry Christmas to all those who celebrate week one of the NFL season. It is all but amongst us. We got Bengals, we got Patriots. Big matchup to start the season here. Patriots bring in Drake Maye. They say, you know what, though, we're not going to rush this in through the draft, we should say. We're going to rush him in. We're going to start Jacoby Brissett. We'll make sure this guy's got time to, grow and improve. You don't want to force him into a situation he's not quite prepared for. I love that personally. Always have. Just ever since Carson Palmer sat the bench the year came in and gave him a chance to kind of learn, grow into the system. I've always really appreciated that. You got a young coaching staff in New England as well. Kind of give them a chance to figure out what they want to do, right? Before you throw in a young quarterback into the midst of the thing as well. So Jacoby Brissett going to start for the Patriots at least in week one. Now Brissett hasn't won a football game since 2022, but I'll tell you what, 2022, same year, he did win a football game against the Cincinnati Bengals, starting for the Cleveland Browns. Went 17-21 or 17-22 in a game. Had an excellent game. And you wonder, what kind of confidence, how he's feeling. We see he's going to see a lot of the same scheming, a lot of familiar faces in Cincinnati since then. Still got Lou coaching up this team here. And we know back in the day, still today, the Bengals, one of the Bengals' weaknesses was the Cleveland Browns. Had a hard time, getting pressure onto the quarterback and forcing him to make plays, which makes the life of any quarterback a lot easier. But you have to wonder, entering this season, what it's going to be like with this new look Bengals, not completely new look, but newer look Bengals defensive line. Feels like a completely new look because DJ Reader is no longer with this team, and we know how big of a run stopper this guy was for the Cincinnati Bengals throughout his tenure. Trey Hendrickson, another year older, still a stud back there rushing the passer. Sam Hubbard, a year older. Myles Murphy currently injured, but you bring in some of these younger guys who we're going to get probably a chance, a glimpse of throughout this game, and we'll see what their potential is. A lot of hype, a lot of hope, and a lot of speculation surrounding these guys in Cincinnati. Hope for nothing but the best out of these guys. So we'll see how they do. Personally, I would imagine it might be a little bit of a slippery start for this Bengals defense. They're going to go up against, we just mentioned it, young coaching staff, newer coaching staff, first-time defensive coordinator, DeMarcus Covington. He did get a chance to split some play calling duties these past couple seasons, but still freshly thrown into the helm. You got Jerod Mayo, name sounds familiar probably, former Patriots linebacker, not too long ago. The guy's only 37. Now the youngest coach in the league is head coaching the New England Patriots. Kind of played the successor role where he sat there, waited his turn, knew Belichick was out the door soon, and kind of inherited that role. And that's kind of scary when you talk about one of the better coaches of our generation, arguably of all time. And Mayo's really been under this man's wing since he was a kid. From being a player, playing for the Patriots his whole career, to being a coach under Bill Belichick. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be, how you game plan against this. What the Bengals do to game plan against this, because there's a lot of question marks. Again, no resume to really go after. Of course, you can say, well, here's some schematic things he may have done defensively in the past couple of seasons. For the most part, it's a completely fresh face. It reminds me a lot of Zach Taylor, actually. Flashback to Zach Taylor. Remember when he came over to the Bengals, new face, kind of what was going to happen. A lot at the time, a lot of Bengals fans, hindsight 2020 now, but at the time, Bengals fans felt like this team was a playoff contender with Andy Dalton. Zach Taylor comes around, Bengals go 2-14, but it was the start of that season where Bengals fans, maybe in one of them, eyes were open. Look at this Bengals offense cooking it up. They went up against the Seattle Seahawks. Andy Dalton threw for 418 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Really good game. Bengals would lose by 1, but in that time and in that moment, it felt like, here we go. This is what we need. We just needed a new coach. And Bengals are going to roll. Offense was clicking. They threw it 51 times, but the offense was clicking. Lost by a point. Would end up being one of the most competitive games the Bengals would play all season before they would go 2-14. And a lot of that attributed to, well, again, we knew it wasn't really the scheme. It wasn't really the system. The players didn't really fit what Zach Taylor wanted to do. You end up giving him time over the years, and we see all of a sudden this guy is putting together a perennial Super Bowl contenders a couple years later. But at the moment, you go up against a veteran Pete Carroll and company in Seattle, and they didn't know what to expect. We seen that in full focus the first half of that game where they didn't know what to expect. Bengals are moving football up and down the field. Second half, again, veteran, one of the greats, Pete Carroll makes adjustments. Second half, kind of clamps things down, finds a way to win the football game. I think it's very possible we see something like that in this New England game. We don't, defensively, Lou Anarumo has proven second half he's great at making them adjustments. First half, we don't really know what's going to happen. I think this football game could be a lot closer than what some are thinking. Again, we bring up the question marks with the interior of the Bengals defensive line. They did address, they did bring in guys like Rankins, more of a pass rusher, and you're trying to fill that void of run stopping. And I would imagine we're going to see a healthy dosage of the New England Patriots trying to run this football down the throat. Stevenson, we know, has the potential to put up some big numbers if getting enough opportunities. And that's exactly what the Patriots are going to want to do here to win this football game, is run that football down the throat of the Bengals, keep the football out of Joe Burrow's hands, wear that defense down, and do their best to not just stay in the game late, but really be within a possession the entire time or with the lead. Because you don't really want to force them to throw that football. But if they can sit there and run that football, wear the team down, they put themselves in a good position. I think it's very possible. We see that comboed with, some plays, some calls. The Bengals ain't prepared for that. Just help this Patriots team move the football down the field early in this game. And, we get to the second half, then maybe where the Bengals kind of adjust and start to pull away from the Patriots. Kind of a big spread. I think it's, +9 right now? If I was the betting man, it's just, I question, hey, yeah, I know who you're playing. I know it's a backup quarterback. I know that this team just does not have a wide receiver, the wide receiver situation right now. Jalen Polk. I love Jalen Polk and watching it, first of all. I think that guy's going to bring, some good playmaking ability to New England. But besides that, not a lot of, they don't really have a formidable number one receiver right now. Going to make the life a lot more difficult for Brissett, a lot more difficult or easier for the Bengals on defense when it comes to when they are forced to throw that football. And when you look at a combination of that and say the Bengals can just stop the run, they can really blow this team out. And they say, okay, maybe that +9 is not much. But we have to remember, historically, the Bengals have been slow starters. Under Zach Taylor, they have been historically slow starters the first couple of games of the season. They lose games they shouldn't. The games are close than they shouldn't. They just look like a sluggish team. But the difference this year is they did play one full drive in the preseason, and boy, were they clicking. They were clicking. And we talk about the coaching staff. Dan Pitcher, new offensive coordinator for Cincinnati. We talked about the advantage of having the unknown to game plan against. Dan Pitcher freshly inheriting that offensive coordinator job, deservedly so, earning it after what he did as a QB's coach and what we've seen out of this Bengals team last season after Joe Burrow went down. Pitcher probably going to bring a different look. A lot of different looks. We talked about this during the preseason game. We've seen the Cincinnati Bengals play action rate go up substantially in that one drive. Again, just one drive. We've seen the Bengals only one time that entire drive did they run a 2 tight end or more set. They actually went 4 wide, no tight ends no tight ends inside, we should say, at the line of scrimmage. Way more during that drive. And again, it's one drive. You never know, but I think stuff like that plays to the advantage in a big way to the Cincinnati Bengals, because then you say, okay, if Chase plays, big question mark. If he doesn't play, I'm gonna be honest, I'm not worried about it. I think you see what Yoshivash can do. I think Burton has that. Be careful what I say. Pause a little bit. Nope, I'm gonna say it. I think Jermaine Burton has the potential to fill the Jamar Chase role. If you watch what Jamar Chase did best in college, if you watch what Jermaine Burton did best in college, kind of similar. You see a lot of guys getting beat on the deep go routes. You see a lot of big plays. Jamar Chase, great at that in college. If you remember, Jamar Chase was, substantially less targeted than Justin Jefferson. Jefferson was the volume guy. Chase was let Joe Burrow just swing it down there, chase it down there somewhere wide open. Jermaine Burton has the potential to come in. Again, I said the potential to come in and really fill that void. And it's the unknown of Jermaine Burton, where if he does get utilized on a lot of go routes, where he could really take the top off this defense early when they're not prepared for it, especially if you're seeing the Bengals go 3 or 4 wide. And that's important, because right now I don't think he's high enough on the depth chart. We might see a lot of Higgins, we might see a lot of Earl, we might see a lot of Yoshivash. Burton might be number 4, but we get to see 4-man sets, we're going to see a lot more opportunities for this man, of course. And again, we could see that play into the Bengals' favor, at least early into the season. What a lot of teams, this guy's still under the radar, even with that stellar preseason. But I do think, just even though, and that the one concern for me is it was preseason week 1. It was, dang near a month ago, 3 weeks ago, that they did play that game. They did run that drive. I would have, again, liked to see them run another drive some point in time in the preseason. That was just me. But this is different for the Bengals still. Always concerned about the injuries, understandably. So the last thing you want to do is get a player hurt in the preseason. But you also have to be prepared for week 1 and week 2, because if you finish the season 12-5, or you finish, or worse, 10-7. You missed the playoffs by 1 game. You lost that early game in the year. This perfect situation. You came in unprepared against the Patriots. You lose to the Patriots. That's not good if you're trying to be a playoff team. And if you're a playoff team already, then you're looking, well, now we're looking at a potential number 1, number 2 seed, lost it by a game. So these games are very important. You have to be very, very articulate with how much you do and don't play guys in preseason, and how you do prepare them for the first game of the season. But nonetheless, still, the most we've seen as starters, the healthiest. Crazy to think of how long Burrow's been in the league. This is the healthiest we have seen Joe Burrow enter the season. We had the ACL, you had the appendix, you had the calf. Hasn't ever really had a full training camp. We talk about it year in and year out. Knock on some wood here because we got a week left. God forbid something happens. But to see this guy come in fully prepared, ready to go, it's going to be interesting to see how much this Bengals offense clicks early. You got T. Higgins contract year. You think he's not going to? Oh, I think he's balling out. I think if Jamar Chase play, I really do think this is the best Jamar Chase T. Higgins years we see. And mind you, this is a combo. Jamar's rookie year, when they first took off, Jamar finished 5th in receiving yards. Chase finished 7th. I mean, we could see something very similar to that once again. Maybe higher. But I think T. Higgins goes. I think T. Higgins goes off. I think if he stays healthy, again, on the franchise tag, we see a big season out of him. And again, what happens with Jermaine Burton? You got the electric Chase Brown, one of the fastest. I think they clocked him in actually at the fastest. If I ain't mistaken, it was a preseason as the fastest running back in the league, topping out over there. You bring in Zach Moss, who, again, sneaky good player. He's done a lot of backup roles over there in Buffalo, Indianapolis, filled in for JT, but he's been solid. Bengals bring in some fresh faces in that regard. The Bengals offensive line, again, you bring in another veteran out there, and then you just have the continuity. Another year of continuity where it just doesn't feel like there's a bunch of shuffling up at that offensive line. You now have 4 of those guys that were all playing together last season. A big head start for a Bengals offensive line that has not seen that sort of continuity under the Joe Burrow era. And we know the more time Joe Burrow has to throw this football, the more he's going to sling it all over defenses and move it up and down the football field. Again, the only question in this football game is how well do they game plan? How well do they stop the run? I think that's my biggest concern if you're a Bengals fan, if you're wanting the Bengals to win, is how well do they stop this run? How well does New England run the football? The Bengals bring back Von Bell. How much of it was Von Bell? We know he's a specialist at run stopping. We know the Bengals let him go in free agency, and then shortly after, was it a mistake? Felt like one. He got cut the next year, so who knows? But meanwhile, letting Jesse Bates go felt like a mistake. Guy goes out there and looks like the best in the league at his position. So you wonder how much was it Jesse Bates, how much was it Von Bell? Jesse Bates played a big role, but how much was Von Bell, that veteran presence, out there stopping a run? Now again, we're going to see Geno Stone, probably see a lot of Jordan Battle. How much will Von Bell factor into this game? But how much of that impact will be there to help stop the run? We know the Bengals had a harder time stopping a run last season. If they can't get off the football field, that makes life pretty difficult. I would think, though, again, career backup quarterback, force them into just a couple, 2, 3, maybe 4 down and distances, and I think the Bengals, third and distance, and the Bengals, that's going to play into their favor. They're going to get off the football field pretty easily. And they only need a few of those in this football game. I think, Joe Burrow's going to find a way to win this football game. I'm going to say Bengals 27. Patriots, I'm going to give them 20. I'm going to give them 20 because it's a new look team. From a coaching perspective, it might take, first half, we might see a couple touchdowns out of this team before Louis adjusts. I'm going to say 27-20. Love y'all's thoughts. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.